This is why you shouldn't start your own studio. So let's say you want to scale your motion design business, you want to make more money and free up your time to do the things that you love. So you think about starting your own studio, hiring more people so that you can scale your business, free up your time and make more money. That's the best way, right? But there's 5 things that you should consider when thinking about starting your studio, or it could end in disaster. So the first thing to consider when you're thinking of starting your own studio is you probably shouldn't start your own studio if you hate managing other people. Because on the whole, having your own studio does mean that you're going to manage others. What I would recommend is to start hiring freelancers and see if you like managing other people. It can get pretty tricky. The best thing to do is to start creating systems and processes that you use and that you want other people to use to help you with your projects. Because then in that way, they can refer to the system or the process instead of asking you lots of questions. There's lots of books and tools out there to help you to learn how to be a good manager, and I'll put some of them in the link in the description. But I think that sometimes maybe it's just not what you want to spend your time doing. So if this is you, then maybe you consider making more money and scaling in a different way that doesn't involve managing others, or potentially you could bring on someone else as a producer or production manager who could help you to manage your team. So the other thing to consider is if you want to stay on the tools. A lot of my students that I work with do actually want to keep using After Effects and Cinema 4D, and they really like to continue to animate. So if that's you, then potentially having your own studio isn't the best thing, because you're most likely going to have to step away from working on the tools to make your studio a success. A lot of studio owners I know do take on some sort of creative director role, so it still can be creative in some sort of capacity, but you're going to have to step off the tools in some way eventually, because I think you need to be looking forward and steering the ship while other people are working on the work, and you're probably going to need to be the person that's going out there and looking for clients as well. So if that doesn't sound like fun to you, then maybe you shouldn't start your own studio. So the next thing to consider is if you want to spend most of your time being creative, because like as we mentioned in the first 2 points, you are probably going to end up spending a lot of time managing your team, but also probably kind of managing your clients too, and finding those clients and working with them. If you're working on big projects with lots of people, this tends to be the role that you take on compared to a more creative role. As I mentioned previously, there are some studio owners who do perform in kind of a creative director role as well, but I think eventually if your studio scales up, you have to be the person who's really looking forward and really progressing and scaling the company. So if you're not interested in running a big business, or even kind of a medium or small size business, and you really just want to be more of a creative, there's definitely other ways that you can scale your business without actually starting a studio. So if you want me to make a video about those things that you can do to scale your business and make more money without starting a studio, then let me know below this video in the comments. So the 4th thing to consider when you're thinking about starting your own studio is you think it was going to help you to free up a lot of your time, because actually a lot of the studio owners that I've spoken to says that it doesn't really help you to free up a lot of your time. It just helps you to free up your time on the tools, and you kind of take on a different role in the business. Unless you're strategic about how you do that, you can actually end up giving yourself more work to do. And like I said, I do believe in building lots of systems and processes out in your business. And this is what I do in my business at Motion Hatch, is I build processes for every single task that I do. And then I try and hand off some of it to either my team, or I also try and automate some of it depending on what the tasks are. So you can definitely free up a lot of your time, but just by having more people doesn't mean that you're going to have more time, because they're actually more demanding of your time. So if you don't manage them in the right way, or you don't build out the proper structure and the systems in your business, it's going to be really tricky for you to actually grow and scale your studio, and for it to not actually take up more of your time than currently you have as a freelancer. And maybe you're considering starting a studio because you think that it will help you to make more money. And this isn't necessarily true. When you start your own studio, you're probably going to to have more people involved. You'll therefore have higher costs. So you actually might not make more money unless you're really focused on the profit. So if you want to learn more about making profit in your business, I recommend checking a book out by Mike Michalowicz called Profit First. In the book Profit First, Mike talks about how we automatically do what he calls bank balance accounting, where we just look at our bank account and we say, hey, this is how much money I've got to spend. But this isn't considering your profit and your tax and your expenses and everything like that. So what he recommends you do is to split it up into different pots, essentially different bank accounts. And those different pots are profit, tax, operating expenses, and owner's compensation. By doing this can help you to actually take the profit out first and to still kind of do that bank balance accounting, but in a much smarter way. So I definitely recommend checking out the book, and I'll leave it below in the description. So if after considering these points, you're thinking, well, yeah, I still want to start my own studio. Well, that's great. And I'm so proud of you. But if you're still wondering and you're unsure, I've got a great question for you. This question comes from entrepreneur Dan Sullivan. The question is, imagine we met for a coffee 3 years from now. Looking back over those 3 years, what has happened in that period to make you feel happy about your progress? This can help you to figure out what kind of business you want to build and what progress you really want to make. And this focuses more on results instead of the how you're going to get there. So this can help you to be more clear about the type of motion design business that you want to build. This may make you realize that you really, really do want to start your own studio, but it could also make you realize that you want to build your business in a different way, and that's okay too. In my course, Business Bootcamp, I've had many students who wanted to start their own studios. Some of them it was right for, and some of it wasn't right for. And I worked with them to help them to build the business in the way that they wanted to. If you'd like to watch my free training on how to scale your motion design business and also find out if Balanced Business Bootcamp is right for you, I'll leave the link to the quiz below this video in the description. If it's not a good fit, then I will also send you some resources to help you to get clients that you love. And if you're still not sure whether you want to start your own studio, you should watch this video next where I speak to studio owner Carl Doran about whether you should stay freelance or start your own studio.